Focus. Hey, what's up guys, this is Marco. So today I wanted to show you how I was able to achieve that focal length effect where you saw my face feels like it blows up and then it shrinks down. Also, you saw the background, it feels like it moves away from me and then it moves towards me. So this is why it's good to shoot outside. That's my first tip. Try to shoot it outside. You're just gonna get a nicer effect. Now I've done a video before on how actually comparing different focal lengths, but I wasn't too scientific about it. It was just comparing what the face looks like. But this time it's more of an effect, right? Because you saw the framing, it stays exactly the same and my face just looks like it goes up and down. So it's pretty cool. So this time I'm gonna share with you what I learned from shooting this thing. I already shot it once here in this studio, but the effect wasn't as dramatic because this background is the same, so it doesn't feel like it's moving towards me. So this is why I decided to shoot outside this time. So you would think this is pretty simple, but it's actually quite of a challenge, especially when you don't have the lenses to cover all these focal lengths. Ideally you want to go from 16 millimeters to 200 millimeters, but then again, most of my lenses are prime lenses. And also I'm dealing with two camera bodies. I have the Sony a7S II, which is a full frame, and the Sony a6300, which is a crop sensor. So I have lenses for these two, and I had to use both cameras with different lenses to cover all these focal lengths. Now what I decided to do is cover 24 mils, 35, 50, 75, 85, 135, and 200. You can choose different focal lengths, but that's just what I came up with. That's a total of 7 different ones. And I'm gonna combine these two cameras with different lenses just to make sure I get those. So first of all, I had to start with 24 mil because I didn't have a 16 millimeters. I have the kit lens, that's the only zoom lens I have. But even when I set it to 16, it's actually a 24 millimeters on the Sony a6300 because you have to account for the crop factor. So depending on the camera that you use, you're gonna get a different crop factor. Canon has its own, Panasonic has a different crop factor, so just make sure aware of that. Ideally, the perfect setup would be to use a full frame camera and have two lenses. The first one is the 16 to 70 mil and a 70 to 200 millimeter with constant aperture. And the reason you want a constant aperture, that way you keep the settings exactly the same. Also, when you have all these focal lengths covered, you only have to switch your lens one time. But since I didn't have these lenses, I have to use what I have. I had to switch my lenses like 5 times and also change the exposure, because some of these lenses, especially the kit lens, that one doesn't have a constant aperture. So when I moved from, when I brought up the focal length, the aperture also comes up. So I had to compensate by adding ISO. So that's something you need to look out for. Also, different lenses get you different color casts. My Rokinon lenses tend to give me a different color cast than my Sony or my Sigma lenses. So just look out for that. You're gonna have to correct for that in post. Ideally, you don't want to do that because it's more time consuming. So that's it, pretty much it. Also, if you're shooting this alone, you have to find ways to get through it. And it's nice to have a big monitor. My Lilliput A7S monitor is out for repair. They actually sent me a new one. So I had to use this little Viltrox DC50, which is pretty small and it doesn't have grid lines. It doesn't show me exposure. So I was very limited. So I had to find ways to try to get the same exposure. Also, when you're using lenses like I was, prime lenses, a lot of these are manual focus. So I had to find a way to keep my exact framing the same and to set the focus every time. So for that, I use this monopod, and what I did is, so first of all, I want to decide what is my framing, right? I use grid lines to keep my eyes at this level right here, right? The top line, and then the bottom is right here in my chest, right around this area. And so what I did is I put in my monopod, or you can use a light stand and use tape or something like that. And so this becomes my eye line, right? It's the same spot. And then the bottom framing is this right here. I could put a tape, or I just know that is this area right here. This is the bottom of my chest. And so when I'm behind the camera, even if I don't have a monitor, I can say this is my eye line, and I know where the grid line is right here. And then this is the bottom of the video. This is the last thing you see in the bottom. And that way I can also set exposure, set focus on this. And that's how you do it when you're shooting alone. So it's a little bit complicated. Not too complicated, it's just time consuming. You have to be very careful and scientific. I'm gonna show you the exact distances I use from between myself and the camera, and also what camera I used and what focal length or what lens I used, just so you're aware of the different changes that are happening as I'm trying to keep the exposure and the composition the same. So anyways, guys, let's get to it. Let's go outside and shoot this thing. I've been waiting all day to shoot this because we had a bunch of rain and clouds, and it was just changing the exposure on me. So you want to make sure you expose for the background, so that's why I brought in a little light that I'm going to use. Yeah, so once you have everything set up, you want to set your marker where you'll be standing. And if you can see down here, already put this is where my feet would be. I'm using these markers, if you can see down here, and I grab this chalk, and this is where I'm going to stand the whole time. I want to make sure I'm in the same place. The only thing that's going to move is going to be this tripod. The tripod moves back, and this is my spot for the whole time. All right, so let's go through this quickly. I use my monopod to set the framing. This right here, this becomes my eyeball basically, because I'm going to set the focus to this. And then I also put a duct tape down here because this is the bottom of the picture, because I'm gonna be taking pictures with this camera. I'm not gonna use video. So the framing is from here, and I'm gonna make sure that my eyeball, this thing falls along the grid line, the top grid line, and I'll show you what that looks like later. All right, so this is right here. I already set my camera. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start taking pictures, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the auto white balance just because I wanna run through this quickly. I could use a great card and set an auto white balance for every photo, because remember, I'm using different lenses and they give off a different color cast. Yeah, so let's just run through it. The reason I'm adding this extra light is just so I can expose for the highlights, get more of the highlights in the background. So everything looks good here. Let me set my settings. That looks good. And let's start snapping pictures. And for that, I have a remote control. I've done a video about this, so check it out. And so what I do is there's a 2-second button here, which I'm gonna click. Or I could smile. You can do whatever you want. I think I'm gonna keep it serious. Or maybe I should smile. Hold on. Let me take another picture. Okay, there you go. So let's move on through the next ones. I'm just gonna start changing the focal length. This is on my Sony a6300 with the 16mm lens, which becomes a 24. That's where we start. The next will be 35, and so on and so on. So you're just gonna see me kind of breeze through this. That way we don't lose the sunlight. Another thing, when you move the tripod back, I just move it back as I switch to a 24mm, which becomes actually like a 35 on this crop sensor. Make sure you move it back straight. Don't move it a little bit this way or that way. Come back straight. That way you try to get the exact same framing. Now we're running quickly because we don't want to lose the sunlight, and also we want to get approximately the same exposure. So again, where's my remote? 2 seconds. Smile. There you go. Move on to the next. Let's just check the photo before you move on. It looks good. Okay. All right. So right here, I'm just checking that I'm in focus. I'm in focus on the monopod. You can see that's my eye line, that gray little level, whatever that is. And then the bottom here, that's the gray duct tape. That's where the frame should end. All right. I'm in place. 2 seconds. Smile. All right, so for this focal length, it's a fifth, actually it's 75. I have to set the focus manually just because it's a manual lens. And ideally you'd want to set a custom white balance, but again, we're in a time crunch, so we just have to work with what we have. So again, I'm trying to keep it straight, and I'm gonna set the focus. All right, so I just switched to well, I didn't just switch. This is an 85 mil, and those of you might be wondering, I'm putting in how far this camera is away from me, just so you get a reference. That's about, what is that? 84 inches. Yep, that's what I wrote down before, because I had actually done this before, because this is a lot of work. Oh, I haven't taken the picture. It's a lot of things to keep track of, so make sure you keep notes. All right, 2 seconds. I'm gonna do a fake smile. There it is. Let me see how that looks. Just make sure I'm in the correct exposure. Yeah, but I'm a little off. With these lenses, you gotta make sure that you're not pointing it this way or that way. It's kind of weird because this was dead center when I set the focus. Now, for some reason, it's like even being a little bit off, you might not be dead center. So make sure you get it right in frame in the center. Okay, I'm gonna move this a little bit. Once you get to bigger focal lengths, there it is. You gotta make sure you're really centered when you take that picture. Otherwise, you might be a little bit that way skewed, and it might screw up your picture. It might be harder to reframe it, or to crop in actually. So again, fake smile. There we go. See how that looks. Okay, now I am much more centered, so that's good. It's good enough for me. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so the thing about this, when you're getting to this focal length, you do have to change up the shift up and down just to make sure you get the correct framing. You might have to take a couple pictures, because if you're slightly this way or that way, it's gonna show a lot with these longer focal lengths. So that's just the last one. This is the last one right here. Fake smile. Hold on. Fake smile. There it is. So let's go back inside and we'll get to the editing. All right, so here we are in Final Cut Pro X. I would suggest that first of all, you edit your pictures in Lightroom if you can, but for the sake of time and for this video, I'm just gonna do everything in Final Cut Pro X. So let's start dragging all these pictures down to the timeline. Let me zoom out of here. So it starts with 24, 35, 50, 85. Actually, the 75, I missed the 75. Let's put it between 75 and 85. Zoom out, then the 135, and then the 200. Okay, so there we go. That's what it looks like. What I have to do first of all is align all these pictures, because if we were to play this, actually, let me first of all hit Control D, and then I'm gonna hit the number 2 to set every picture to be 2 frames long. 2 frames. Let me zoom in here. You could also set it to be 3 frames if you want it to go slower. That's up to you. If we play this, you see it looks kind of off because the pictures are not perfectly aligned. So we need to perfectly align our eyes to our grid line, and I'm going to show you that. Oh, and if you wanted to set the duration of this, the speed, you can hit Control D and set, and you can do 3 frames or 4 frames, whatever you want. Let's set it to 3 frames just for the sake of this video. All right, let's turn on the horizon line. View, show horizon. You see this is centered. Also, I'm going to bring in the rule of thirds. This is a PNG file I created. You can access, or you can download it in the description. I'll have a link there. So I need all of this. Close this. All right, so I have to align all my pictures. Now let's look at our weak link. Which one is worst aligned? Oh, the 50 right now. Also the 75 is kind of off to the right. Okay, so let's call this weak link the 75 because it's off to the right. This is the one we have to crop in, and we're gonna dictate the framing based on the 75. So let's scale in. First of all, move it to the left. I think that's centered right there. My nose, it's centered. And I move it down so my eyes hits the eyes. It's along the grid line, and that's pretty much it. Now, if we look at the bottom of the frame, my shirt dictates where the bottom of the video is going to be, right? So we're going to keep the same exact framing. Let me zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to hit this transform just so we know we're within boundaries, right? We don't want to have any black bars. So actually we can zoom in a little bit more. 114, I would say, just to make sure we're not, actually it's fine, 113. And so that's the framing. Let's go to the 50 and do the same thing. So you're gonna see me align all these pictures, and I'll come back at the end and to show you what it looks like. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Everything looks aligned. You can see there I aligned all the pictures and nothing is coming out of frame. So it looks pretty good. Let me turn this off. And now the horizon too. I can say show horizon. There we go. So now it's just color grading, and I'm not gonna bore you with it. I have a color grading tutorial. I have to pretty much match up all these colors because you can see every picture has a little bit of a different color cast. That's why it's good to only shoot with, if you can, with 1 or 2 lenses. That way you don't have to spend all this time editing the colors. But the effect is there, right? I'm gonna bring in an adjustment layer and do the color grading. If you're interested in an adjustment layer, I have a link in the video where how you can gain access to one, or you can get color finale, which I'm going to use to color grade this. Yeah, I don't think the new Final Cut Pro X gave us an adjustment layer. I don't know why. They gave us other things, but they didn't give us an adjustment layer. That's weird. Anyways, drop in color finale because that's what I like to use. Let's see, color finale. Boom, drop it in here, and I'm going to use a lot just to color grade this pretty fast. Let's see, show gallery. So this is what's nice about color finale. It gives you the option to use to preview your LUTs. This is awesome. So I don't know, you can do black and white if you want to spend a lot of time color grading, because if you turn it black and white, then you don't have to worry so much about the skin tones. So I'm just curious how that would look if I were to do that. Let's see, choose black and white. Boom, you see, there it is. Not much of a difference in the color grade. So that would be cool if I did that. But let's stick with colors. I like this. Let's choose unitone. There it is. I don't like that the red is too saturated, but I guess we can play that down, right? Vectors, red, saturation, down. Luminosity up. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, and I can go ahead and spend more time and individually bring down the color grade on each individual clip. I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video. I'm not going to show you that. You could go ahead and do that. Lastly, I'm just going to add the sharpen tool, a little sharpening to the images. And yeah, that's pretty much it then, as far as color grading. Now, you could use this video already. Here's what I would do. I would group these together. New compound clip, boom, and then option, hold on, option, make a duplicate, and you're gonna reverse this clip, and now bring up the adjustment layer this way, You see that? And it plays. Now for an Instagram post, you have to create a new project. Command N. I'm gonna go through this fast. Instagram. And you're gonna change the dimensions to 864 by 1080. Hit OK. Go back to that project. Select this. Command C. Go to Instagram. Command V. Paste in your project there. And we're gonna have to expand this out so it fits our framing. Boom. Let's make sure there's no black bars. Okay, so let me take this, delete this one. Let's make sure we're in the center. Looks like we are. Okay, let's take this again. Option, drag. We're gonna reverse the clip again. Reverse clip. Let's turn off this horizon. And in order to be an Instagram post, it has to be 3 seconds long. Right now it's at 1 second, so we're gonna have to duplicate this twice. Hold on, Option, and drag it over. Go, let me zoom out. Again, Option, drag it over, and then let's drag our adjustment layer and play this. And see how it looks. Boom, you see that? So the next thing is just to export. Export file. And since I have an iPhone, what I do is I select the format. Instead of video and audio, I select computer or Apple device. That way it exports in .mp4 instead of .movie. If it's video and audio, it exports in .movie. You want .mp4 file. That way you can airdrop it into your iPhone. That's what I found. And then you can just upload to Instagram. So that's how I would do it. That's pretty much it. That's everything there is, as far as I know, to creating something like this. All right, so this wraps up this video. Hopefully I answered all your questions, but if I didn't, go ahead and drop them down below. Also, if you have any suggestions, anything you want to share, that would be awesome. If you guys want to see more videos like this, also please let me know. That way I can make more. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and as always guys, I'll catch you on the next one.